all Christians are ushers. Let me explain. What's up, everybody? My name is Joshua, and we are both followers. And here we're talking about the idea of all Christians being ushers as a title. Now, some people don't like titles. I personally don't think there's any issue with labeling things so people understand what a purpose is. Now, within the Christian walk, you may have different offices, you may have different roles, but at all points, we are always to be ushers. Now, this comes from a conversation that Reinhard Bonnke, who's somebody like Billy Graham, who's led many people to Jesus, and he was in a meeting where people were talking about titles, and people were saying they're this. It's a culture where people were like very focused on their titles, and it came to him, and he's somebody who could brag, but instead of bragging, he said, "I'm just an usher." He says, my job is to usher people to Jesus. And that not that there's anything wrong with had he chosen to state otherwise, but I think that's a great teaching that we can use, that we can understand that the Great Commission is for all of us. The Great Commission is a command at the end of the Gospels for all of us to go and preach the gospel. And it says that Jesus says before he leaves that the Spirit comes down and empowers us to be witnesses into all the world. And so the Holy Spirit's empowerment is not just to help empower us and empower the church, but to go reach those who don't know Jesus. And so it's part of our call is to reach out to them. And salvation is not by works. So that's why it says, you're not a saver, right? You are an usher because you're leading people to Jesus. Jesus does all the saving work. So when you were saved, Jesus did all the saving work. And also, the person leading you to Christ really didn't do the work. Paul says some plant, some water, etc. But Jesus brings the growth. He brings people. So he does all the work. All we do is present. We share the gospel, and just presenting it, they make their decisions. And the idea is when you see somebody who is like an evangelist, you say, oh, well, I'm not an evangelist, I don't do that. Well, that's not an option, because as I mentioned, the Great Commission is for everyone. And the evangelist's job and role is not just primarily to bring people to Jesus, but to equip others to bring people to Jesus, do the work of the evangelist. He says he encourages others. So as all of us are meant to work together to do this. So it just reminds me of how, when we're called to figure out, well, what is a Christian? What does a Christian do? Part of that is to be like Christ, and part of that is to obey Christ. And in this command, it's just simply sharing the gospel, ushering people to Jesus. So rather than getting hung up on all these titles and positions, always remember all those things can be good, that at the core of it, at the foundation, we're all simply ushering people to Jesus. Peace.